好了 ，recall Newsom 肯定的。至于选谁呢？我们今天来听听看看 Kiley 怎么说，看看是不是能解决我们的疑问。
Do not be distracted by showing objects. For the next 8 days, there was one mission, and one mission only. What's that mission? Recall Gavin. Give me the expo.
So I think we got a question and answer ahead, right? Is that the plan? So I'll just begin. I want to welcome everyone and thank you so much for being here and being part of the greatest citizens movement in California history. This has been quite a journey, and just this weekend we've had a number of events throughout the area, and it is truly remarkable what we're seeing. I've been involved in politics for 5 years in our legislature. I've been fighting against the corruption, the dysfunction, the supermajority, the super duper majority, and over the last year and a half, I've been fighting in every way I can against Gavin Newsom's one-man rule, through lawsuits, through resolutions, through trying to terminate the state of emergency. But sort of humming along in the background the whole time, thanks to the effort of folks like Mike, and thanks to all of your efforts, the people of our state were fighting back in the way that matters most. And that's what this recall is all about. So Mike already kind of did this, but I want to ask it in a slightly different way. And I think I know what the answer is going to be. But who here signed the petition to recall Gavin Newsom as governor of California? All right, who here collected signatures for the petition? Wow, we got like the top people here. This is great. And that's what is so beautiful about this movement, is we now have this golden opportunity to set California on a new course, and it's not because of anything that politicians like me have done. It's not because of anything that the state party has done. It's because of what you have done. And they have told us from the beginning that this was never going to happen, right? Did anyone tell you that when you were out gathering signatures?
Yes.
Never going to happen. What, 125 is not going to happen. Not only did we get it on the ballot, we got more signatures than any petition drive in United States history.
Wow!
We have overcome every obstacle that has been thrown in our path so far. And what made this movement happen was sort of the one thing that they can't touch, that they can't censor, that they can't stop. And that's folks like you, out in your community, in real life, sitting in a booth outside of, I don't know, what are the big spots here? Target, Bonds, you got Hobby Lobby, Chick-fil-A, farmers markets, and offering a pen and paper to your neighbors. That is something that they can't touch. It's beyond the reach of censors. And it's built this movement. And it has gone through all of these obstacles. And we are now on the precipice, 8 days out of doing something that no one ever said could be done. And that I think will change the game in terms of the way politics works in Sacramento, in terms of how politics works in California. It's our opportunity to actually return to the idea of government of, by, and for the people. So I want to thank everyone who has made this happen. It is because of you that I am doing this. I didn't necessarily join forces with the recall with the goal of becoming a candidate for governor. I wanted to support folks like you who are making this happen. And I decided to enter the race simply to be one bearer of the torch. You know, I say I'm standing on the shoulders of 1.7 billion giants. We're all in this together, and that is the way that I would govern, is to, in fact, I say the most important job of our next governor is to make it less important who the governor is, by returning power to local communities and their citizens. That's
Thank you, Kevin Kiley.
As they've given our state catastrophe after catastrophe, blackouts, wildfires, felonies, they've given Gavin Newsom more money than any other politician. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. They basically were behind his rise to power in San Francisco. They even pay his wife's salary.
Yes.
And what do you know? There's just no accountability for everything PG&E has done. In fact, a whistleblower just came forward and said that the independence of the PUC in regulating PG&E was compromised when Newsom started, and everything had to go directly through the governor's office. And these examples abound. If you're familiar with AB 5, which put countless freelancers in California out of work. That was done because Gavin Newsom's biggest funders, the massive unions, instructed him to do so. And of course, during COVID, Newsom took this corruption to new levels. Huge no-bid contracts were awarded to his top donors. Powerful interests, including Hollywood, were exempted from lockdowns as small businesses died in droves. But worst of all, this governor expelled millions of kids from their classroom, longer than any state in the country, just so he could keep getting money from his biggest donor of all, the teachers' unions. So Gavin Newsom absolutely personifies the culture of corruption in our state capital. But it's very much, that culture is very much pervasive. It's the same story in the legislature. Every legislator gets hundreds of thousands of dollars per election cycle from the special interests that are represented by lobbyists right around the Capitol. I saw when I got elected that this was the story behind our state's decline, is we have a state capitol that is not serving the people of California. That's why we continue to sacrifice the most and we get the least in return. It's why we pay the highest gas taxes while driving over the deepest potholes. It's why the state budget has well more than doubled borders. So I go about unwinding Gavin Newsom's one-man rule. For every executive action that Gavin Newsom has taken to violate our rights and destroy our freedoms, I would take action to restore those rights and protect our freedoms. What are those freedoms? Well, let's start with economic freedom. And this is not, these are the things I think we need to move towards generally, both in terms of what the governor can do through executive authority and with the legislature. There's economic freedom, enshrining as fundamental the right to earn a living. There's educational freedom, empowering families with school choice. There's medical freedom, respecting the personal autonomy of each individual. And there's religious freedom, putting worship and fellowship beyond the reach of any bureaucrat. But a governor has the power to summon a special session of the legislature, and they have to come. They can't just say, oh no, we're off wherever we're vacationing. The governor calls a special session, they gotta come. And I would throw down the gauntlet. I would say, take your job seriously, start governing in the public interest at long last, or face the same fate as Gavin Newsom in next year's election. Yeah. So these key issues, these key challenges facing our state that keep getting worse, homelessness, the cost of living, rising crime rates, failing public schools, I would demand meaningful reform legislation on each of those topics. And I know, from working with these people the last 5 years, the one thing that legislators respond to is political pressure, the fear of losing their job. So when they see the governor lose his job, it's going to be a whole new ballgame. Well, I want to be governor because I believe California is worth fighting for. Woo. And look, I'll be honest, I didn't wake up one day and say, gee, I want to run for governor. I wasn't planning on running for governor this year. But I had been supporting the recall in really a supporting role because, as I was saying before, this has been a citizens movement from the start. And last year, I came to see it as bringing a whole new element to the equation, to kind of break through all of the obstacles that have been blocking reform at our state capitol. It's an opportunity for the people of our state to put their mark directly on our state's politics, to reshuffle the whole stack deck of our political system. So I went around and did something like 40 or 50 events throughout the state during signature gathering. SJ was at one of them in Norco to try to just support the signature gatherers, to build excitement and enthusiasm for the recall. And so I met thousands and thousands of people like you along the way. And it was really just an amazing experience because we've been, living through COVID and the lockdowns, and there weren't a lot of events, and then I just, got to go to every part of the state and see the level of frustration among people everywhere, but also the level of enthusiasm for the recall as a movement. And so as we got closer to the phase of this where we actually vote, I started hearing from folks who were saying, well, maybe you should sort of carry the torch of the movement forward. And so that's why I decided to run, less as a candidate for political office, but as one participant in this historic movement, as one bearer of the torch. And I would see my responsibility as governor, and I guess I should be talking to Benson a little more, since he answered the question. I would see my responsibility as governor to carry forward the spirit of that movement, to understand, to make sure it's understood that this is a movement not just to have a personnel change in the form of the governor, but to change the entire paradigm of our politics so that you as citizens get a voice. I mean, I think that you should be able to think about your governor with pride, but you really shouldn't have to think about your governor much at all. Everything should just work as it's supposed to, and your life should be yours to live. And so, Benson, I want California to be a state where you can, grow up and have all the opportunities you want. You can be, anything that you want to be. You can get a good education, and you can pursue your dreams. And I think that for a lot of young kids these days, those opportunities are disappearing. But if we have a different governor and different people in charge of our government, then I think that you can have all the opportunities in the world.
In 2020, how do you feel about masks, lockdowns, and are you a Christian? All right, those are like 3 questions all together.
So I voted for myself in 2016 and 2020. I was on the ballot in both races. I generally do not, opine on national politics because that's what Gavin Newsom wants to make this race about. And so I stick strictly to state issues. I'm against these mask mandates and vaccine mandates as we've been going over. It's time to restore control to local citizens and trust in local citizens as other states have done. And those states have not only kept their kids in school, kept their businesses open, but have also got better public health outcomes as well. Yes, I'm a Christian. And in fact, I visited a couple fantastic churches yesterday in this area. I was at Godspeak, or I guess it was the day before. I was a Calvary Christian as well, and really, really great experience. I'll say one other issue on masks, by the way, because this we see now some districts. I think LUSD is doing masks outdoors at school too, right? Did I hear that? Which is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. No public health experts believe that's the right thing to do, or at least that's not the consensus. And if you look at what's going on, first of all, we're a minority of states that has a statewide mask mandate. But you look at what some other countries are doing. Let's look at Western Europe. In the UK, I mean, they've been pretty bad about a lot of this lockdown stuff. But they're saying, no, we're not going to do masks for elementary school kids. We're not going to do it. They're not required because the harms to the child's development far outweighs any benefits. And what are those benefits, by the way? Those have not been established. Those have not been clearly established. And so, but we're learning more about the harms to making a child, put a mask over their face for 8 hours a day. And it's almost certainly true that it has a different effect on different kids. Kids are different, and different kids have different needs, and in different circumstances. So that's the reason it should be in the hands of parents to make the decision, not the hands of Gavin Newsom or any bureaucrat at the state or district level. And I'll make one final. Well, the replacement is chosen through a special election. I have a rather solid Republican district. There's no doubt it would be a Republican successor, and I can give you a dozen names off the top of my head of people who would be great. As far as what would happen if I am not the person who ends up winning, but the recall is successful, whoever it is, I will be committed entirely to helping them succeed. And will do whatever I can to make sure that they have an effective administration and will be reelected the following year in order to continue California in this movement forward. So as it concerns Mr. Eller specifically, he was on a television show, Fox 11 here in LA a few weeks ago, and he was asked about me, and he said he'd want to make me his chief of staff. So I then went on the same show, and they asked me about him, and I said, well, I'll give him the same offer. He can be, maybe I should have said communications director. That might have been better. But as I said before, I view the other folks on the ballot as teammates, not as opponents. And as far as why not just stay in the assembly? Well, I mean, I've been in the assembly for 5 years, and I've made the changes that I can make there, and I would continue my State of the Assembly to fight for change however I could there. But I see the recall and this moment as truly a unique opportunity, where we have this totally different element being brought forward. This citizens movement, unlike anything we have ever seen in California. And so I see the chance to sort of carry the torch of that movement forward as giving us an opportunity to totally change the game in a way that has not been possible before, and as an opportunity we could not have for perhaps a while in the future. So that's why I decided to run. That's why I think our campaign has gained a lot of momentum. It's been going on for just 2 months, and we've already in recent polls risen to second place among the Republican side of the field. And so I think we're going to do very well on Election Day. And I appreciate everyone here who has come to consider me as the second name on the ballot. But of course, as I tell everyone, most important thing, no matter who you're voting for, is yes on question 1.
This was all going to fall apart too. So just don't believe what you're hearing in the media.
Mike Netter said it the best. These are shiny objects meant to distract us from the real goal. Don't fight with your neighbors. Oh, I like the guy from San Diego. I like the guy from the radio. I like the guy that's the most attractive of the group, okay? Don't have those fights with your friends, because those are shiny objects to distract us from our goals.
Vote Newsom out. We've got to get him out. We've got to get him out.
Your eyes so blue, me pressing through. I can't forget the day we met. Your smile so bright, it made me swoon. Our love is like a summer's day, hot and endless in a magic way. Whenever I see you, all I can think is my summer love. Been waiting for you, my love. My summer love. Been waiting for you, my love. I can't forget the day we